places that is wasteful. And somehow, some way, we got to figure out a way to do it. I'm working on a teeny, tiny little issue. And the only reason is because it was something I did when I was in the Florida legislature. I was familiar with transportation disadvantage. And it's a program that if someone is on Medicaid and they need a ride to the doctor, then that's provided. And if someone is a war veteran that was injured and they need a ride to the new VA hospital when it gets open, then they would get that. And a lot of other things. That program, you would think, would be primarily funded by the Department of Transportation. It's not. The Government Accountability Office found that there were 87 programs that fund transportation disadvantage. Of those, 7 of them are in the Department of Transportation. The rest of them are in all kinds of other departments that have nothing to do with transportation. And the duplication, the overhead, the person that's in charge of the program is all duplicative. And you know, just that one little part of the budget, and there's that many programs. Matter of fact, you might have heard of Head Start. It's an education program that for K through 3, where you try to give people who may have had difficulties because of learning our language or other things, they get behind. And so this Head Start gives them a head start so that by grade 3 they're on level or above, and they can go forward as other students, as opposed to lagging behind and become a burden to the system. And it's done for the purpose of making sure that our education system produces educated children. And it has a transportation component. That component is funded out of the Health and Human Services budget. So it's a transportation issue tackled by the Department of Education, funded through the Department of Health and Human Services. What is that? I don't know. I don't know what that means. All I know is it's very wasteful. And so they're buying buses for a certain populace. Matter of fact, we found that there are sometimes 8 or 9 of those programs all cover the same person. So if you're this person right here, there's this program and this program and this one and this one and this one and this one all cover you. And each one of them are out, in some cases, buying buses, buying equipment, having a secretary and an undersecretary and an administrator and other parts to the federal government, all of which gets transferred to the state, who has to sort it all out, because they're the ones that actually provide the services through the local, like Links as our community transportation coordinator. And in some cases I found that here's a group buying a bus that covers this person, and here's a bus that already exists covering this person. And there could be on the same street at the same time 2 different buses picking up someone eligible under the same program, but 2 different programs funding it on the same day at the same time. And the buses half empty, both of them are. There's the problem. So I know waste is a problem too. And I know that if I can dig out this one little part, I'll have done my share of what I would like to do, and that is unravel, pull the skin back on programs like this and say, enough's enough. So my first job I'm working on, what I want to do, is get all of the capital expenditures, buying of buses, under one program in the Department of Transportation. They understand how to buy buses. They buy them in bulk. They can get the best deal, and they're going to make sure that none of those buses are bought, that there's not enough people to ride. So that'd be the first. The other is to, in a lot of cases, just shut them down and move. What does that do? Does it change the service, reduce the service? No, it doesn't do that. A lot of these programs are not capped, in that every person that needs that ride that's Medicaid eligible gets the ride, no matter what. So it's not like we need some other program to fill in the gap. We don't. What we need is the bureaucracy that runs that other program needs to melt. Take the money left over, which is what actually services people, and give it to the Department of Transportation or some other agency to run it better. So that's a long answer, but it's, if I could sum it up, it's these two things. The two things that I dislike about federal government that I found in the 15 or so months I've been here. One is mission creep. I just explained mission creep. The Department of Transportation transports people. Department of Education shouldn't be. Neither should the Department of Health and Human Services or the Department of Labor or anybody else. It should be the Department of Transportation. Mission creep says, well, we can do it too. And we can do it, and we can do it, and we can do it. And now we got 87 programs. And I'd hate to tell you that this was found 8 years ago. I hate to even tell you that. Then there were only 63 programs. The Government Accountability Office recommended that they form this coalition and figure out how to work it out with all the different agencies. They did. And nobody showed what the means. So for 8 years it's gone on, and now we've added over 20 more new programs. So mission creep, that's one. And the second is cookie cutters. Cookie cutters are great to make stars at Christmas, but they're not so great in making laws. Federal government has the tendency to do cookie cutters for education funding, for healthcare funding, for transportation funding, and so forth. So they say, stamp, here Orlando, Florida is your program. Here Butte, Montana is your program. Here Inner City, New York is your program. And they're the same. It doesn't work that way. We know the needs of our Central Florida area, and they don't have anything to do in a lot of cases with the needs in Butte, Montana. Yet we'll handle the same cookie cutter program. And so one of the things that this budget does is try to promote flexibility. Not much, because it's so institutionalized, it's hard to promote change. But it's there, and we're trying to give states more flexibility in formulating their program. I mean, if you think about a lot of the state governors, Republican and Democrat alike, said, give us the money, give us the program, we'll create a Medicaid program that's far better than what we have now at the same amount of money. And the federal government has resisted. However, it the state of Rhode Island a waiver, and the flexibility has been highly successful. It's the best program we have around, because we gave them the flexibility. They developed it at the local level. They created public-private partnerships with all kinds of hospitals and other providers, and they're taking care of the needs of the people. So those two things, if I could magically do away with mission creep cookie cutters, I'd do it. Well, I can't, but I'm trying. So I'm going to try in transportation disadvantage to get rid of the cookie cutter and get rid of the mission creep, and hopefully there learn a lot of lessons to help me do bigger and better things at some other point in time. Wow, sorry I took all that time to answer that question, but it's a big question. It is a big question. This whole thing is a big question, and it is a huge choice about where we're headed. Anybody else with a question? I won't be as long as now. I'll give you a yes or no answer.
A few years ago, we were asked to bail out banks, and we were told that they were too big to fail. Has anything changed since then that will prevent that kind of reckless behavior that got us into that situation?
Well, I wasn't there when we bailed them out. My thought was they're not too big to fail. We should have let them fail. And that's my opinion. I know it would have caused hardship, but I would say the last several years have been hardship anyway. And so I felt like let it go. And same with some of the other companies that we bailed out. I just think every time government gets involved in something, it doesn't turn out that well. There are things that we do well. We defend this country, and we have an awesome armed forces, and that's something we do well. But getting involved in businesses and trying to adjust the economy by picking winners and losers